Coming to you from the Hudson Media Group studio, this is Talking Politics, and I am New Jersey's premier 7-time award-winning journalist and top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, as well as the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate political commentator. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Hope you all had a wonderful summer. Happy September. It's great to be back in the studio, and certainly there's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Ladies and gentlemen, and certainly a story that caught my eye over the summer, actually a few weeks ago, out of the Jersey Journal, and nice job by Ron Zettlinger from the Jersey Journal itself. And I have to say, man, it's one of these cases where, I get what the law says, but sometimes, folks, we're sort of living in this climate where it seems like we're having more sympathy for criminals than law-abiding citizens protecting their own property, and it seems like that's the case here. So I'm going to just give you some details as to why this story is so significant. Now, a Union City man knocked out a car burglar with one punch, wow, that's really impressive, on a Jersey City street, and now he's facing manslaughter after the victim died from injuries 4 days later. I mean, if you expect me to be feeling sorry for the criminal, I'm not, but that's unfortunately the times we live in. Now, Robert Stevens was initially charged with aggravated assault after the August 2nd incident on Bergen Avenue near Snyder High School. Certainly not the very best area of Jersey City. As a matter of fact, it's actually quite a cesspool there. It's actually a dump in the southern part of Jersey City. But when Anthony Passero, 51, died at the Jersey City Medical Center, an autopsy was performed and the charge was upgraded to manslaughter. Now, according to a criminal complaint and statements that were made during the detention hearing a couple days later, Stevens saw Passero out of Bayonne reaching into Stevens' Jeep at 10:20 in the morning. He ran towards Passero subsequently. When close enough, Stevens punched Passero on the side of the head, knocking him to the ground. Now, first and foremost, again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm someone that's going to be very unapologetic when I say this. Good for him. Now, again, this could have been catastrophic for Robert Stevens because subsequently, who knows? Maybe this gentleman could have had a knife, a gun on him, and who knows? This could have turned very, very ugly. But good for Robert, I guess. Maybe he just got a good, maybe a good sense of the scenario, of the environment. He saw that the potential car burglar was distracted as far as trying to get into the car, and he knocked him out. Now, according to the Jersey City closed-circuit television footage cited during the detention hearing, Stevens stood over the bleeding and unconscious Passero for 21 seconds before getting into his vehicle and leaving. Hudson County Prosecutor Eric Vivino pointed out during the detention hearing that during that time, Stevens failed to call 911 or render any type of aid. I don't know about you folks. I would not render aid to someone that was trying to break into my car and then I subsequently knocked him out. That just seems asinine. I'm not sure what the law says, nor whether or not Mr. Stevens was required to call 911 anyway. Now, Hudson County Superior Court Judge Paul DePascal released Stevens with conditions after the detention hearing Wednesday. Now, Stevens told police in an interview that he went into, quote, defense mode and claimed that Passero had become irate. And, of course, this is what was said at the hearing. Now, the assistant prosecutor said of the video that it refutes that claim and instead shows that Passero never saw Stevens coming before the punch. Vivino also noted that Passero was not armed. I don't know what difference that makes to the prosecutor, to be honest with you. I think when Mr. Stevens saw Passero try to break into his car, I don't know, again, whether or not it's defense mode or he just felt a sudden, rush of adrenaline. I don't know what it is, folks, or all of a sudden just an accelerated dosage of testosterone in his bloodstream. I don't know, but maybe we've all been there. Maybe we haven't. Would we react like Mr. Stevens did? I don't know. I'm glad he did. And I'll be very honest with you, why there's this perception out there to feel sorry for Mr. Passero, I could care less. If you're going to be a criminal and break into someone's car, folks, there's a very simple philosophy. F around, and you're going to find out. And that's what happened to Mr. Passero. So good riddance to him. It's one less criminal on the streets as far as I'm concerned. Now, according to what the assistant prosecutor said during the hearing, quote, the defendant didn't just get mad, he got violent. Rather than confront Mr. Passero, he attacked him. He went from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. DePascal questioned Vivino on the incident. Why would this not be a justifiable use of force under the Defense of Property statute? Vivino answered that under the statute, a person is required to ask the person to desist before using force. There was no request here. There was no time for that. He ran up to him and just punched him in the head. Well, folks, again, I don't want to speak on behalf of Assistant Prosecutor Vivino, but I think that, Chief Prosecutor Esther Suarez, as well as Assistant Prosecutors Leo Hernandez and others, have a pretty crappy staff working for them. And I understand what the statute might tell you, about, asking the person to desist before using force. And this is where sometimes I think prosecutors don't live in reality. I mean, how many people out there, how many of you at home, ladies and gentlemen, watching on your smartphone, your tablet, your PC, your Mac, would honestly ask someone to desist? Hey, listen, if you're feeling a little courageous and you feel you can blindside a criminal, why not do it? Now, again, that might sound like I'm advocating for vigilantism. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. Folks, I can say this much. I've been very fortunate where I have not been the victim of any serious crime in my life. Yeah, maybe a burglary once in my lifetime. I've had my car broken into, and I've never liked that scenario. I've always felt violated. I felt very vulnerable. Now, if I saw someone coming on my front porch after looking at my camera and they're trying to break into the door, I might do something. Obviously, I'm going to try to make sure I blindside the person, because why would I confront him? Again, I'm not an attorney. I don't know what the statute says under the New Jersey Criminal Code, but it just seems like Vivino here is not living in reality. And again, I'm hoping that, if Mr. Stevens was released after the detention hearing, he may face further criminal charges. I'll be very honest with you. This does not feel like manslaughter, okay? Listen, it happens. Mr. Pissarro decided to be an idiot and break into someone's car, knowing full well that, hey, when you decide to commit a crime, there might be consequences, not just legal ones, but street ones. And that's what seems to have happened here. So as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't give two drops of piss about Mr. Pissarro. I'm sorry, it sucks for his family, but hey, you got a criminal amongst you, and if he decides to do something stupid like this, bad things tend to happen. So hats off to Mr. Robert Stevens. Certainly, I hope that he does not face any serious jail time, because at the end of the day, folks, it's our personal property. And again, as Justice Pascal talked about, why would this not be justifiable use of force under the Defense of Property statute? I mean, again, folks, it just reminds you that the judge here seems to know more than the prosecutor, where Vivino, I think, is as clueless as the day is long. Hopefully, listen, Mr. Stevens doesn't face any additional legal consequences, but as far as I'm concerned, he's a hero, and he's a hero to all of us that have been victimized in some shape or form about any sort of property crime. So as far as Pissarro is concerned, folks, I'm not going to miss him. I don't think you'll miss him either. And quite arguably, folks, do we ever really miss any criminals? I know we sort of live in this society now where we glorify criminals. I mean, didn't we do that all throughout the summer of 2020 into the fall? Like, we glorified a career criminal in George Floyd, a guy who, up until his death, I believe his most recent arrest, was assaulting and, I think robbing a pregnant woman in Minneapolis. So if you want me to feel sorry for someone like George Floyd and other criminals, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. Call me whatever you want. You can call me heartless, lacking compassion, lacking empathy. Folks, what I don't believe in is giving you feelings. I believe in giving you facts, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. So, again, I applaud Mr. Stevens. Hope he doesn't face any additional criminal charges. And, again, I'm not advocating that everyone try to do this from now on. You have to be careful. We don't know exactly if someone's going to break into our property or break into our car, what they have on them. Folks, just be judicious. If you think it looks dangerous, don't get involved. But hey, if you feel confident enough, it's on you, and we'll see what happens. But once again, I applaud Robert Stevens. God bless him. I wish there were more people like him. And again, with less criminals on the street, that's always a good thing. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. And now to more local stories for your consideration. A shout out to Dan Ulua from the Hudson County View for his report on this story. So at a recent council meeting, residents again went to the public portion and spoke wholeheartedly about asking Councilwoman Amy DeGise to resign. Now, the meeting once again went over 5.5 hours, with 29 people again asking Councilwoman Amy DeGise to resign during the public portion of the council meeting. So, for example, a local resident like Nick Zorowski, who spoke at the August council meeting, again called on Councilwoman DeGise to step down, being highly critical of her public remarks from last month's session. Now, it's a pretty good article, again, and shout out to Dan for sitting there. I was there, as a matter of fact, during the public portion. And I have to just give a shout out to him, because I know he did reference me during the column, obviously. And I have to tell you, I was really, really happy to see that, because I think when we go there and we sign up on the Jersey City municipal website, you want to be able to speak your mind. And again, folks, while 3 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, you can arguably, get a lot off of your chest when it comes to giving commentary. And one local person who did that was yours truly, who signed up. And it was interesting, Dan, the way Dan reference me here, local conservative political commentator Fernando Uribe, who had DeGeez as a frequent guest on his podcast prior to the hit and run, said he wasn't going to weigh in until the court process was over and criticized several outlets for their coverage, though not Hudson County View. And of course not, folks. I made it very, very clear that there have been a lot of garbage news sites, not just locally, but statewide, that have felt the need to pile on, like garbage journalists like David Cruz, Uncle Dave from NJ Spotlight News, or little JJ Lassiter from Insider NJ, all right, or Tommy Boy, Tom Moran from the Star Ledger, and of course all these garbage sites, NorthJersey.com, again, NJ.com, Insider NJ, NJ Spotlight News. It seems like everyone there is always, I guess, maybe had this sort of rush of self-righteousness and sanctimony in their depiction of what's happening. And again, folks, I've been very consistent since the summer. I did it on social media, and I certainly did it during the 3 minutes that I had during the public portion. Yeah, Amy's a friend of mine, and do we pile on our friends? I don't like to do that. I wasn't raised that way. My parents raised me to let the facts come out, let the laws of the land prevail, let the court process, again, marinate organically, and we'll see what happens. But do you defecate on your friends when it comes to maybe seeing them during a difficult time in their lives? Yeah, folks, my parents didn't raise me like that. But clearly that's not the case with journalists, well, really, people masquerading as journalists here. I mean, these are clowns, folks. Or a local activist, right? Or let's say perpetual campaigners and failed congressional candidates like, Chiquitin. You know who Chiquitin is, right? A.K.A. Hector Oseguera. Yeah, people like that and other local activists that seem to be so compelled to stand up for bicyclists and scooter riders. Now, again, let me be very clear. Andy Black took a red light. Now, to this day, I have yet to hear the Jersey Police Department issue a summons to Mr. Black for taking the red light. Now, I think we can all make the case that if Andy Black had followed, street laws and traffic laws, nothing would have happened to him, and I think this case would have been completely avoided. Yes, we understand Amy DeGeez hit him. She had the right of way. She had a green light. She hit him, and she kept driving. And subsequently, we've seen Oprah requests being filed. We've seen footage where it took her approximately 6 hours to report the hit and run to a local precinct in Jersey City. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to pile on Amy. She's a friend of mine. Her dad's a friend of mine. And again, while her dad and I don't see eye to eye ideologically or politically on almost everything, he has my respect, and I know that I have his. Same thing goes for his daughter, Amy. We've been friends for years, even before she became chairperson of the Hudson County Democratic Organization during the summer of 2018. And yes, she's been a monthly guest on my podcast ever since then. Not lately, because subsequently, after this legal matter, her attorney, and rightfully so, has asked her to not speak to the press. But subsequently, I'm sure Amy, once this case is disposed of, sometime in October, I believe I've heard correctly, out of Essex County, I'm been assured that I'll get a full interview with Amy DeGeez, not just on my weekly podcast via Blog Talk Radio, again, Talking the Hudson, but also on my Monday night show, Real Talk via Jersey First TV. But in the meantime, folks, you know what? I'm not going to pile on Amy, but it's really funny about the sanctimony and the self-righteousness, again, of some of these bicyclists, because it's almost like a cult, folks, right? Like, you see them go to these council meetings. I've been to the last two already. I've been to the one in August, and I've been to the one just last week. And it just seems like, yeah, I get it. There's a public safety concern that some of them have. But folks, bicyclists and scooter riders think they own the road. And if you haven't had a chance to check out a great column by one of the few journalists at NJ.com and the Star Ledger that I can actually stomach, Paul Mulshine, check it out, because he really dissects what the problem is with this bicyclist cult and community that just thinks that they own the road and that the laws don't apply to them. Here's something that I would really propose, and something I've already written to my legislators about. Hey, bicyclists want accountability from everybody, right? Well, they should look in the mirror. What I would suggest, and what I would really love to see the legislature do, is require bicyclists and scooter riders to A, register their bicycles and or scooters, B, pay for insurance, and C, pay for plates. And I bet you that if you see that level of accountability coming from the DMV and for bicyclists and scooter riders collectively, they'll get their act together. But in the meantime, they want to bitch and moan about how unfair it is to them that they don't feel safe. Well, do me a favor, folks. You should know how to ride a bicycle. Don't ride it on the sidewalk. Don't ride it in sort of deeply congested areas. All right? What happened to Andy Black was unfortunate. Okay? Amy DeGeez was driving through the south side of Jersey City. I mean, I'd be speeding through there as well. I don't want to be stuck on MLK Drive. It's a dump down there. All right? But again, these bicyclists, these activists, failed congressional candidates, virtue signalers, these clowns masquerading as journalists. They all have something to say. And again, let the laws of the land prevail. That's what I'm waiting for. And then subsequently, whatever happens to Amy DeGise, I'm sure she'll honor what the legal precedent will be. And we'll see what happens with her seat on the city council and subsequently what happens with the rest of her political career. But in the meantime, folks, take it easy, take a deep breath, have a glass of wine, smoke weed, whatever it is that makes you relaxed and may tranquilize you for a little bit. Just do that, folks, because in the meantime, your sanctimony and self-righteousness, especially from bicyclists and scooter riders, is becoming insufferable already. And you know what? All of you should be ashamed of yourselves. Another interesting story that took place recently, again, sort of documenting the president's recent speech last week with a very sort of ominous background, and a shout out to Jacob Fischler from the New Jersey Monitor for really breaking this down. Apparently the president of the United States, a guy who ran on uniting us because he felt the country was so divided, well, perhaps gave the most divisive speech of any American president I've ever seen in my adult life. Now, the president slams, quote, extreme MAGA Republicans as Democrats launch a drive toward the midterm elections. Now, last week, if you remember, when you watched Sleepy Joe in front of this podium with this red background with the Marines, you know, obviously there behind him, it kind of reminds you, folks, if for any of you Star Wars fans, I mean, it looked like Darth Sidious, all right, Emperor Palpatine, okay, speaking before the Senate with, you know, his hands in the air, looking angry with his fists up in the air, screaming about our democracy dying. It's kind of interesting, right? If you remember, if you're a Star Wars fan and you watch The Emperor, it kind of gave you that recollection. I know it did for me. That was the first thing that came to my mind. And if you went on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, ladies and gentlemen, the memes were priceless. In the way that all you had to do was just take out Biden and put in the Emperor, it was the same visual by the President of the United States. Now, again, you know, just sort of looking at some things, you know, he took indirect shots at some senators of his own party, for example, Kirsten Sinema of Arizona and Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who opposed changing, for example, the chamber's filibuster rules to allow legislation to pass on simply majority votes. Senate rules require that a 60-vote threshold has to pass for any agenda. And I think, folks, whether it's Republicans that control the Senate or Democrats that control the Senate, that's a good thing. See, Democrats just want to be able to ram through a lot of woke and fiscally irresponsible legislation with just a majority, because right now it's a 50-50 Senate, and the tiebreaker, you know, is the hyena herself, the vice president, right? Kamala Harris, when she's like, nya, 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 about everything when she gets in front of a microphone. But again, I think the filibuster is a good thing, because at some point, Republicans will get the Senate back, hopefully this November, and I'm sure that while they'd like to ram legislation through as well, there's a reason why that filibuster is there. There's a mechanism, folks, to allow, right, the prevention of an abuse of power. And that's, again, when we talk about, you know, the separation of powers and why the three branches of government work interconnectedly, you want to make sure that no one branch is being more abusive of the other. But what was interesting about the 25-minute speech by Sleepy Joe is that, you know, it sort of went beyond major policy differences, you know, sort of framing Trump and people who support the 45th president as extreme MAGA Republicans, as a existential threat to American democracy. I gotta love, folks, people like Sleepy Joe and those on the left, especially here in New Jersey. There is no shortage of garbage journalists talking about, you know, the decline of democracy. First of all, whether it's Alan Steinberg from Insider NJ or Tommy Boy from NJ.com, the Star Ledger, or David Cruz, you know, Uncle Dave, David Cruz from, you know, from NJ Spotlight News. It just seems like all of them, especially Sleepy Al, all right, Sleepy Al, Alan Steinberg, are bitching and moaning about the decline of democracy. Oh my God, we're seeing it, you know, just disappear before our very eyes. Have any of these grown-ass men ever taken a history course? By the way, whether it's books that I have behind me here on my set here on Talking Politics or on the set of Real Talk with Jersey First TV, there's a history book there somewhere. Do I need to remind you all this is a constitutional republic, right? You sort of throw these words democracy around as if you don't know what it really means. And this is what's really interesting about looking at, you know, the President of the United States, a guy who's clearly in cognitive decline, who's clearly demonstrating various episodes of dementia, is going to sit there and insult all of you folks about him uniting the country. Did that sound like a uniting type of speech? Did that have the tone of even wanting to unite people? This hopefully will galvanize conservatives and Republicans alike during the midterm elections, which again normally have a low turnout. I get it. Democrats are empowered. They feel galvanized because of overturning Roe versus Wade, and they want to, you know, run on woke nonsense, and that's fine, and that'll mobilize. Listen, the overturning of Roe versus Wade is certainly going to mobilize a lot of Democrats and mostly women, right? Suburban housewives or even urban women, right? A lot of them, insufferable feminists and all these annoying cat ladies that stink of cat piss. We all know who they are, right? All the different organizations, all right? But by the same token, you would argue that this speech by the President of the United States probably alienated half the country. Hopefully, that'll mobilize conservatives and Republicans alike to come out this November and take the House, as historically, that's what tends to happen during the midterms, and number two, hopefully take the Senate. And all I can do is pray that starting in January of 2023, that a red Congress can make what hopefully will be the last 2 remaining years of Sleepy Joe's term the most miserable and the most uncomfortable as possible. Because didn't we see that during the 4 years of Donald Trump, right? That the Democrats, as soon as they won the midterms in 2018, they wanted to either impeach him, which they tried to do, and B, it was a witch hunt from the very start, whether it was Russia, or the Mueller report. Take your pick, folks. There was a witch hunt. Well, you know what? Take your medicine now, because hopefully if Republicans take the House and the Senate, there'll be a witch hunt for Sleepy Joe. And you know what? By weaponizing the FBI against the former president or even regular citizens, and what they're doing with colluding with big tech, right? Seems like either you get it in shadow banned or other stuff of censorship that's going on, right? Mark Zuckerberg even admitted to that. Well, guess what? Hopefully, a red Congress can make Sleepy Joe's remainder of his term as uncomfortable as possible. And maybe we don't have to see such divisive speeches by the 46th president anytime soon. Another interesting column that caught my attention during the latter part of the summer was from Jennifer Howard, the president of the New Jersey League of Women Voters. And here's a very interesting title for it: Women's Inequality Day, the fight for the ballot, our bodies, and democracy. Again, people on the left just love to throw the word democracy out there, right? So, of course, Jennifer wanted to give us a little bit of a history lesson, so she goes forward with, on August 26, 1920, activists and suffragists alike across the country celebrated the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which granted some women the right to vote. Today, on the 102nd anniversary of the 19th Amendment, we must recognize that the right to vote, as well as other freedoms fundamental to equality and justice, such as the right to reproductive health privacy, including abortion, contraception, and infertility care, are once again under attack. Women have fewer rights than they have in recent decades. Now, the passage of the 19th Amendment, the result of generations of organizing, allowed women to realize one of the most fundamental tenets of full citizenship, which is voting. Of course, in practice, the protections of the 19th Amendment did not extend to all women equally. Despite the significant role they played in the struggle for suffrage, Black, Latina, Indigenous, and other women of color across the country were still largely denied access to the ballot until the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965 and in 1975 collectively. In 2022, we again see women of color continue to lead the organizing in the battle for voting rights and reproductive justice. Now, of course, Jennifer goes on to remind us all that the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling, which chipped away at the Voting Rights Act, Shelby versus Holder, and the overturning of the right to abortion established in Roe versus Wade and Dobbs versus Jackson in the Women's Health Organization, have paved the way for states across the nation to pass laws that severely restrict both the right to vote and the right to an abortion. Well, let me just tell Jennifer something right here. Jen, again, you're entitled to your opinion, you're not entitled to your own facts. Okay? What the Supreme Court decision did in overturning Roe versus Wade is, A, it did not outlaw abortion. It's still legally available nationally. Okay? Nothing's been done at the federal level in the legislature, right, in the House and Senate, to codify it, which, again, Democrats have had control of the legislature forever. Right? It hasn't always been like this hoopla and hysteria. Oh, if Republicans get into office and if Republicans win the presidency, they'll nominate people to the Supreme Court and they'll eventually overturn Roe versus Wade. Haven't we been hearing that for decades? Don't you think at some point it would have occurred to Democratic leadership in Washington to say, hey, maybe we need to codify abortion or reproductive rights at some point? But no, it's a great weapon to use during campaign season. It's great to get money and fundraising. And it's great, again, to weaponize. But at the end of the day, you could have done this a long time ago. But let me just not focus on that, Jen, because that's failed leadership by the party that you belong to. But let's also go about the fact that what the Supreme Court did in their decision, okay, was simply relegated down to the states. Again, 10th Amendment. Powers not relegated to the federal government via the Constitution are relegated to the states. That's what the 10th Amendment says, pretty much. I just paraphrased it. But of course, insufferable feminists like Jennifer Howard and others, and all these cat ladies that stink of cat piss in New Jersey, would rather bitch and moan again about pregnancies that they cannot terminate in states that they don't live in. Okay, here in New Jersey, a woman wants to reconsider her pregnancy. Hey, there's no shortage of clinics here that are subsidized by taxpayer dollars, both at the federal and state level, right, that are allocated to Planned Parenthood. Well, there's clinics all over the place. So if a woman gets knocked up tomorrow and you wish to terminate your pregnancy, again, that's your right to do that. Guess what? There's plenty of clinics here. We just finished, single girl summer, right? Labor Day came and gone, right? Hasn't stopped women all across New Jersey, right, from having, drunken escapades Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday nights. And maybe some of them wake up Monday morning and think to themselves, damn, I maybe should have done this with this person or that with this. And guess what? If they need a plan B, it's readily available in New Jersey. So again, the idea that reproductive rights are under attack, well, they're not under attack in New Jersey. Now, I get it if you want to get into a hissy fit about women not having the same access in other states. Well, folks, that's just the way it is. That's what's called federalism. That's what's called states' rights. You think people in Kentucky, in Florida, in Tennessee, or Texas care that here in New Jersey we coddle illegals? That we take taxpayer dollars and create a legal fund to provide legal counsel to illegals fighting deportation? Or that we have the highest property taxes in the country? Of course not. They don't worry about us any more than we should worry about them. I get it. You want to personalize it because it's about reproductive rights. Fine. Have your hissy fit. But again, folks, it's a states' rights issue. And if those women and men don't like what's going on in the legislature in those specific states, well, guess what? They can vote those legislators out. But in the meantime, here, I get it. You want to crop up this hysteria, Jennifer. It's great for fundraising. It's great for social media hits and clicks and views and traffic. But in the meantime, try to keep in perspective, please. And that's our show for this week. Once again, to check out all the excellent programming brought to you by the leader in independent media here in Hudson County, the Hudson Media Group, please check out their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, as well as www.livestream.com/hmgtv. Check out the Hudson Media Group page on YouTube, and make sure you like them on Facebook and follow them on both Instagram and Twitter. Episodes of the 7-time award-winning Talk in the Hudson will resume later on this month, but you can always check out recent episodes by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/talkinthehudson. All the episodes are free of charge, and they're available to listen to anywhere and anytime from any PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. We'll have great guests and exclusives you don't hear anywhere else on podcasts in Hudson County Media. Don't forget to check out the show on Facebook, folks, Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe. Make sure you follow me on both Instagram and Twitter. It's the same handle now, at the Fernando Zone. And also make sure that you check out my LinkedIn, Fernando Uribe, in addition to making sure that you follow me on Facebook as well. You can't miss me, folks. It's the handsome guy with the brand new headshot there. Check it out on Facebook. And of course, always check out episodes here on the website, and of course, also on the Talking Politics Facebook page, as well as Talking Politics with Fernando Uribe on Instagram as well. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Talking Politics right here with the Hudson Media Group. It's me, Fernando Uribe, New Jersey's premier 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino, Vida Latino Spirit Online magazine for 2020, 2021, and 2022, and certainly the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate political commentator, saying so long, and as always, thank you so much for watching.